Tanse, I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. First Nation leaders in Northern Ontario have declared a state of emergency over the flow of illegal drugs and resulting deaths in their communities. The declaration comes following what Anishinaabe Aski Nation says was a drug-related shooting incident that unfolded in Ginugaming First Nation. Ginugaming was placed under a shelter-in-place for 2 days starting on Wednesday morning as Ontario Provincial Police searched for 2 armed and dangerous males. That advisory has now been lifted as of Thursday afternoon, and the OPP says 1 person is dead and another was injured. APTN's Dennis Ward reports.
Ginugaming First Nation, roughly 300 kilometers northeast of Thunder Bay, has itself been under a state of emergency for 16 months due to an increase in violence and drug and alcohol-related crime in the community, which was overwhelming leadership and causing community members to fear for their safety. Chief Sherry Taylor reissued a call for action on that state of emergency following Wednesday's homicide in the community of roughly 200 people. In a statement, Taylor said it is absolutely tragic that the young life of one of our members has been taken and another one has been injured. The 2 outstanding armed and dangerous individuals continuing to be at large is a major concern, and we urge anyone with any information or know of their current whereabouts to report it to the OPP. Taylor had a message for her community members.
If you continue to harbor criminals and gangs, continue to sell the drugs to our kids, you will be banned from the community and you will have to leave.
The tragic incident comes as chiefs and others from 49 First Nations in Northern Ontario gathered in Thunder Bay for a conference on addressing gang infiltration, illegal drugs, and drug-related violence in Anishinaabe Aski Nation territory. Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler and First Nations leadership on Thursday declared a state of emergency on illegal drugs and deaths.
And it's come to the point, in some cases, where our chiefs and councils feel they are losing control of their community because we have outsiders coming in from Winnipeg, from Ottawa, from Toronto, and elsewhere, taking over the communities by fear and intimidation.
Anishinaabe Aski police are reporting an increase of more than 300% in cocaine and fentanyl seizures between 2023 and 2024. Fiddler called on Ontario and Canada to equip First Nations with the resources they need to take back control of their communities. The NAN Grand Chief called for an urgent meeting with government ministers. Mandy Galmasti, the Minister of Indigenous Services, posted on X on Thursday that she was heartbroken by the violence in Ginugaming and says she stands with NAN leadership. On Thursday evening, OPP confirmed 2 males were in custody after a 2-day search for suspects considered armed and dangerous in connection with the homicide investigation. No charges have been announced. Dennis Ward, APTN National News.
Manitoba RCMP are looking for a man who was allegedly involved in a kidnapping of a woman from Bunabanabe Cree Nation. Here's a brief report. According to Gillam RCMP, on Monday, September 29th at around 8:20 a.m., RCMP received a report of a 25-year-old woman from Bunabanabe who managed to escape from a vehicle after being held against her will at a home in Gillam. The woman told RCMP that she was at a bar in Thompson and met a man and a woman, and all 3 decided to drink together. The woman says she was then drugged and woke up in a vehicle that was arriving at Gillam, 247 kilometers northeast of Thompson. According to the RCMP, the woman was forcefully taken inside a home in Gillam and was held against her will, and says she was repeatedly assaulted, had a firearm pointed at her, and was threatened physical harm if she tried to escape. After 2 days, the woman was able to escape from a vehicle when the 2 suspects drove her to get something to eat at the local grocery store. On October 7th, 41-year-old Crystal Nepatabo was arrested and charged with kidnapping with a firearm, forcible confinement, and theft under $5,000 and was remanded in custody. A warrant has since been issued for 36-year-old Riley Champagne of Gillam, who has also been charged with a number of charges including kidnapping with a firearm. If anyone knows where Riley Champagne is, you are asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. The investigation continues this week. Another family member of a person who died at the Whitehorse Emergency Shelter is suing the organization responsible for its operation. The father of Josephine Hager has launched a civil suit against a nonprofit Connective and 5 unnamed staff members. The 38-year-old Selkirk First Nation citizen died at the shelter on February 1st of 2023 from a lethal combination of morphine and alcohol. A coroner's inquest last year saw video footage of Hager lying motionless on the ground with only brief checks from staff in the hours leading up to her death. A statement of claim filed on October 6th blames staff negligence for her death, or in the alternative, holds Connective responsible. The suit is seeking $75,000 in damages. 2 separate lawsuits against Connective and the Yukon government involving deaths at the shelter were recently settled out of court. Ernestine Silverfox Silas was Hager's auntie and guardian.
There needs to be change there. They need to change the workers, get people involved in there that knows their First Nation people. You know, because we asked for a lot of changes in that place. And the way my daughter died, I wasn't too happy at all.
None of the defendants have filed a statement of defense. APTN News will continue to follow this story. The Edmonton Police Service says they have narrowed down the location of the remains of Samuel Bird, the 14-year-old who has been missing from Edmonton since June 1st. Edmonton Police Service has said recently they believe Bird is deceased and his death is, quote, criminal in nature. At a press conference at Carrot Creek, Alberta, about 90 minutes west of Edmonton, the investigation's lead detective said that recent findings from a number of sources indicate that Bird's body is likely buried in this area. Officers began searching the area with drones and a cadaver dog shortly after the press conference ended. They are asking nearby residents to keep an eye out for anything suspicious and to contact them if they do. Detective Jared Bueller says there are suspects in Bird's disappearance.
Just our information and analysis with recent information brought us here. As I said, it was compelling. It was compelling enough to immediately send our canine to this location from the other location. This is worth our best shot now. I know that we're committed to working together to bring this home, whether it's today, tomorrow, this week, or next spring. This is not going away. We will investigate this to the end. I assure you of that. The people responsible for this will be held accountable.
We are learning how a missing Saskatoon woman, Megan Gallagher, was killed. CTV's Laura Woodward has the story, and a warning: some viewers may find the details disturbing.
Roderick Sutherland enters Saskatoon's Court of King's Bench on day 4 of his manslaughter trial as Robert Thomas takes the stand. Thomas was in the garage with Sutherland, the same garage where 30-year-old Megan Gallagher was killed. Court heard Gallagher died on September 20th, 2020 while restrained to a chair. Thomas told court that about a month before, he was held hostage and stabbed multiple times. He testified he feared it would happen again and suspected Gallagher was in the garage to set him up. Thomas testified there was a group of people in the garage, including Summer Sky Henry. He testified that he asked Henry to wrap Gallagher's body in plastic wrap, but she didn't wrap her body, she ended up wrapping her whole face, Thomas testified. He said when he approached Gallagher, she was dead. Quiet sobbing could be heard from the gallery as Thomas described Gallagher's final moments. Court heard her body was moved from the garage into a truck and later thrown into the South Saskatchewan River. Laura Woodward, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Members of the Office of the Auditor General were before the Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs this week to discuss a 2024 report on the First Nations and Inuit policing program. The committee heard that the report finds the program has largely been mismanaged, with both Public Safety Canada and the RCMP failing to actively engage communities in decision-making. As much as $48 million targeted for the program is going unspent each fiscal year. RCMP positions under the program also remain unfilled, and it has not been updated since 1996. Deputy Auditor General Andrew Hayes told the committee a familiar problem.
We found in our 2024 report that the department had not engaged with the First Nations and Inuit communities in a way that would have been allowing or supporting meaningful contribution by those communities. For example, essentially the funding decisions had already been made before the First Nations communities or Inuit communities were consulted.
We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Some First Nation chiefs in Manitoba are sounding the alarm once again regarding Jordan's Principle funding. 7 First Nations are prepared to take matters to court if the federal government doesn't deal with their backlog. With the details, here's APTN's Tiara Wheatley.
The Interlake Reserves Tribal Council, or IRTC, says they will take court action next week if they don't get a response from the federal government about fixing its Jordan's Principle backlog affecting more than 400 families in central Manitoba. Executive Director Carl Zadnik says the feds have failed to negotiate in good faith.
We were promised over $15 million back in 2024-25 fiscal funding to earmark for these disadvantaged and children with disabilities. And so we're shortfalled of almost over $5.3 million of that promised funding.
Zadnik says funding cuts, which the feds say were being misspent, resulted in cutting services and staff for the 7 First Nations within IRTC. And this past April, the Tribal Council started their fiscal year with a $500,000 budget. Lake Manitoba Chief Cornell McLean says First Nations were set up for failure.
Right from the get-go, from Health Canada, Jordan's Principle Program, Joe Gashro, he said yes to everything, and then, now all of a sudden we're under a financial review.
IRTC says their Jordan's Principle requests are for medical transportation, mental health and disability services, land-based healing, school lunch programs, and sports initiatives. In September 2024, the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society were back at the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal, putting pressure back on the feds for non-compliance to uphold Jordan's Principle. That process revealed a backlog of over 82,000 cases nationwide. Around the same time, the feds announced they would be going back to the basics. But Dauphin River Chief Lawrence Latander says the government's method has no quality control.
And using Jordan's Principle to cover other underfunded program areas such as NIHB and poverty supports. ISC does not have a triage or case management mechanism in place to receive requests. Relying on first come, first serve, that leaves children with high need and urgent needs waiting.
And according to Canoon-Jishtagan Chief Tony Travers, they can't even help anyone who lives in urban and rural areas.
We can't fund the off-reserve membership, and that's what we depended on the Interlake Reserve Tribal Council for.
Funding that IRTC says could mean life or death for some families. Tiara Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A gathering for K9 professionals and enthusiasts, K9 United, was held north of Montreal in Mirabel, Quebec. As Kim Sullivan reports, for one young Innu from the community of Pessamit, it was also a platform to raise awareness about the reality of dogs in Indigenous communities.
Luca Bakary was 18 years old and living at home when his mother suggested they buy a dog.
Puis je me suis dit, c'est mon premier vrai chien en tant qu'adulte. J'ai la possibilité de me mettre à 100%.
In order to truly understand how to raise a dog that would be a good member of the community, Bakary had to do a deep dive into research. Like in many Indigenous communities, the presence of stray dogs is a problem in Pessamit, an Innu community on the north shore of the St. Lawrence River. Bakari blames colonization for completely changing the ancestral role of dogs.
When you look into history, you understand better that the dog had a place, had a role. He was a protector, he was a companion, he was hunting with us and everything. We were put into communities, and then with that, the role of the dog has been lost. He had no outlets no more. He wasn't living his true animal life, his natural animal instincts. So he was put in the back on the leash, and then with time, they kind of put the dog to the side.
So 3 years later, Luca not only has a dog, a Rottweiler named Baku, he has a new vocation.
I want to bring quality information, quality service, a good service to the people, and create a strong dog community on the North Shore.
To learn more about the canine world, Luca decided to volunteer at the ultimate gathering for canine professionals and enthusiasts, Canine United. He sent an email to its organizer, François Garcia, exposing the reality of dogs in many Indigenous communities, the lack of animal care or control, of education or proper information, and the impact of colonization on the role of the dog. All things that he was hoping to help fix.
I want to be able to create a center. I want to be able to create a strong dog community, create like a place where it's controlled, where the dogs are safe, where the environment is clean, where the dogs could have their own time to develop, to build confidence or to learn structure, trying to rebuild that lost connection that we had with the dog.
Garcia's business partner and wife, Patricia Okonomo, opened the email. While reading it aloud to Garcia, they immediately knew they were dealing with a special type of individual.
And I'm like, that sounds good. I'm like, how old did you say he was? She tells me, I think he's 20 or so. And I'm like, ask him to call me. I felt I was talking to a 50-year-old wise man.
Instead of inviting him as a volunteer, Garcia offered him a booth, giving Bakari a platform to inform others of the canine issues plaguing Indigenous communities and his desire to restore the dog's ancestral role. Bakari jumped on the occasion. Within a few days, his community and council had funded his trip. Without knowing it, though, his passionate and ambitious attitude at Canine United was going to reward him even more.
You rarely come across young people that are so passionate, and I mean true passion about something, and that they truly believe in what they want to do. He's wise enough, smart enough to see the problem, but he's smart enough and wise enough to think of solutions. We've decided that we will sponsor him for $8,000 to build all his complete online platform marketing. We don't want him just to talk about it. We want him to get it going now.
An unexpected honor. One step closer to creating his dream center, Nutshimit Canine, and of becoming a canine instructor.
Sometimes you think that you're going into the wrong direction, kind of lost, but you got to still keep pushing. But sometimes you don't. You're too caught in the moment, and you can't realize that, oh, I'm lucky, that I have a voice, that I'm doing this for the people. And personally, I can't. I'm lost of words. I'm amazed.
Kim Sullivan, APTN National News, Maribel.
Great story. We now want to tell you about this week's web poll questions. Our first question we ask, do you think residential school denialism should be classified as hate speech? Your options are yes, no, or unsure. And our second question is, are Canadians more supportive of Indigenous issues than in the past? You can vote yes, no, or unsure. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca/poll to have your say. Kim Sullivan is back with Nouvelle Nationale up next to tell us what is on the show this evening. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. St. John 6, Charlottetown 10 and sunny. Cartwright 7 and sunny there. Le Grand River 7 and partly cloudy. Saguenay 8. Montreal 11 and partly cloudy. Toronto 15, Sault Ste. Marie showers and 10. Sioux Lookout 9, Wawa rain there as well at 10. Churchill 6 and sun's out, Thompson 9. Winnipeg 11, Dauphin 12. Regina 10, Yorkton 10. Buffalo Narrows 7, Smoky and Stony Rapids at 6. Fort Chippewa 6, Peace River 7. 17 in Lethbridge, Edmonton 18 and sun's out. Vancouver 11, Kamloops 11. 7 in Fort Nelson, Smithers 6. 5 in Watson Lake, Dawson 2. 3 in Fort Simpson, Yellowknife 3. Sax Harbor -2, Colville Lake -1. Baker Lake 2, Cambridge Bay -1. And Arctic Bay -12, Aglulik -3. Another episode of Nouvelle National airs tonight, and host Kim Sullivan shares with us what to expect. Tanse, Kim.
Hey, Creason.
Nouvelle has reported on this dangerous road in Manawan before, but tonight you bring us some news on the topic. Hey, Kim?
Yes, Chemin Manawan. We've spoken about it quite a few times on the show. It's the only road in and out of the community of Manawan in Quebec, 87 kilometers to civilization. So that means the road taken for medical care, groceries, entertainment, full of curves, hills, gravel potholes. Back in 2023, we reported that the Ministry of Transportation was going to start work on it, but nothing has happened since. And the Atikamekw Council has said that's it. So I'll share with you their next steps tonight.
Sounds like a very interesting story indeed. You also talk with a biologist tonight. What about that?
Remember that rabies-infected caribou they discovered this past spring in Nunavut? Well, with hunting season on, we wanted to speak with experts about the chances of rabies infecting our herds here, what to do if we suspect an animal to be infected, and can we still eat the meat of said animal? So it was truly an interesting discussion, and that's airing at the end of the show tonight.
And Kim, tell us about this fashion collective at Montreal Fashion Week.
I wish I could have bought every single piece, Creason. I don't want to give away all our punches, but I will say that we are blessed with amazing Indigenous designers, and they took on Montreal Fashion Week for the first time officially. Stéphanie Desev was behind the scenes moments before they took to the catwalk. It was beautiful.
Sounds like a great show indeed there, Kim. Thanks so much.
Thanks, it is. Join us tonight, 6:30 Eastern.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Friday, October 10th. Dennis Ward is back with your evening newscast in a few hours. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News Daytime, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next Tuesday, same time, same place. Have a safe long weekend with family. Kinanasko Mitnan. Ekse.